Look at this, guys. This is really interesting here. Jack Smith asks court for narrow gag order on what Trump can say regarding elections case. What happened here is Trump is out on bail in a number of jurisdictions because he's got 91 criminal charges against him in 4 indictments. And as part of him being released, there are pretrial terms. There are terms to your pretrial release. Hey, you can't do this, this, and this, right? Trump has basically violated every single one of those pretrial release terms. And he's brazen about it. You know, he goes on Truth Social, says deranged Jack Smith. You know, there's been people going after the people who were on the grand jury. By the way, their names were released in Georgia as a matter of standard operating procedure, which is terrifying. I feel bad for those people. I'm sure they're getting threats. But now you have Jack Smith like, all right, look, we've had enough. Asking the judge, you got to do something about this. You got to say he can't say certain things that put people in danger. So here's what they say. Jack Smith, a special counsel prosecuting former President Donald Trump, asked U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan to place a narrow limit on what Trump can say publicly over concerns of witness intimidation, a new court filing unsealed Friday revealed. The defendant has an established practice of issuing inflammatory public statements targeted at individuals or institutions that present an obstacle or challenge to him, Smith wrote in the filing, making clear he believes Trump has launched a campaign to discredit the entire justice system ahead of his trial. Trump has been charged in Washington, D.C. on 4 felony counts related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Politico's Kyle Cheney noted that Chutkan summed up Smith's motion in the unsealed document, writing, "The government seeks to establish that defendant has publicly criticized his perceived adversaries and is aware that his criticism has led to their harassment." Cheney also noted that witnesses testified about harassment they have received. Witnesses testified about harassment they have received. So in other words, this isn't all academic. This isn't all theoretical. There are real-world consequences to his daily deranged meltdowns where he goes after everybody and their mother and violates the terms of his pretrial release. So Jack Smith is like, hey, you going to do something about this, or are there going to be no rule? Are we just going to say there's no rules, that there actually were no pretrial release terms? Now, to be fair, he's just looking for a gag order, which is like, hey, don't talk about this. Not like lock his ass up. Trump's social media posts have long targeted federal law enforcement, the FBI, and the DOJ, as well as judges assigned to his cases, and speculation regarding a gag order has run rampant for months. NBC News highlighted some of Trump's past statements, noting, the government said Trump made clear his intent to issue public attacks related to this case when the day after his arraignment, he posted a threatening message on Truth Social. Trump's August 4th post read, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you." Trump, the office wrote, has made good on his threat, spreading disparaging and inflammatory public posts on Truth Social on a near daily basis regarding the citizens of the District of Columbia, the court, prosecutors, and prospective witnesses. This is what he does, right? He has nobody to blame for this but himself. Will they grant the gag order? I don't know. We'll probably know soon. But he really has nobody to blame for himself for this. He puts everybody in an impossible position, right? Yes, you're a former president. Yes, you're brought up on 91 criminal charges, and there's a tremendous amount of evidence for many of those charges. In a world that made sense, he would understand, okay, if I'm out on pretrial release and I'm not allowed to talk about this, so I'm just not going to talk about it. Instead, not only does he talk about it, he actively, threatens a lot of people involved in the case. And then you put these people in this position where it's like, okay, do we, lock up a former president before his trial because he very brazenly is violating the terms of his pretrial release? Is that what we do? Because obviously that's going to be a scandal. Obviously that's going to be inflammatory. Obviously that's going to lead to criticism. But the point, which is so obvious, is you did this to yourself. You could have just abided by the terms. I mean, I've talked about it before too. When I was on a criminal trial jury one time, it was about an assault. Somebody stabbed somebody else and they survived, but there was a whole trial over it. And, they impressed upon us as being part of this jury. During the process, you're not allowed to talk to anybody about any of this. Don't talk to the media. Don't talk to your family. Mum's the word. Quiet. And it's like, you want to make some academic argument of this actually violates freedom of speech. Does it? Does it? Or is that just par for the course standard rules for the road when dealing with a criminal trial? Right? In an attempt to try to keep it as fair and unbiased as possible. And it's the same thing for this. There's a reason why it's hey, don't bring up the jury, don't bring up the prosecutor, don't bring up the judge. Now you have extra security walking around with some of these judges to go to the frickin' grocery store because this psycho is threatening them. And so it's he did it to himself. So I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is if they do a gag order, there's going to be a right-wing flip out over that, and then he'll probably violate the gag order immediately. Imagine if he gets locked up, then of course it's going to be huge. Everything's going to blow up, and everybody's going to miss the forest for the trees, and they're not going to state the obvious, which is he's doing this to himself. He has nobody to blame but himself. He's putting everybody in an impossible position. But that's what Trump does, right? That's his superpower. Complete and utter shamelessness and total lack of accountability or consequences. And look, hopefully at some point that catches up with him. I don't know. All you need is one cult member on that jury to make that not the case. But Jesus Christ, for once in his life, reel it in, relax, take it easy. Stop bringing this upon yourself, because if there's anybody who deserves to get that gag order and then deserves to get a pretrial lockup, it would be you. You're basically begging for it. All right, guys, that's the show. I love you all very much. Thank you, as always, for listening to me. Do me a big favor. Click like, click subscribe, click that bell icon so you get a notification every single time a video drops. And yeah, that's all I got for you today, man. We're going to have, this week, we're having Naomi Klein on Crystal Kyle and Friends. She wrote a really interesting book that we're currently reading, Crystal and I, called Doppelganger. And it's about how, Naomi Klein wrote The Shock Doctrine, which is a phenomenal book about how basically disaster capitalists take advantage of crises and ram through an agenda that's unpopular that makes them profit, right? She wrote that. But there's this other woman, Naomi Wolf, who is also, an intellectual, but in the case of Naomi Wolf, she's very right-wing, and now she's gone full conspiracy theory insanity. And Naomi Klein always gets confused for Naomi Wolf. And it drives her crazy. She's like, this woman is basically like a hack and a fraud, and I'm a serious academic and intellectual doing real work, and now everybody thinks I'm this woman. It's like, made her reflect on what the hell is going on. What is a doppelganger? What does it say about her? What does it say about me? And it's a great book so far. We've read, a few chapters so far. We're going to keep reading. I can't wait to talk to her about it. So definitely check out Crystal Kyle and Friends. By the way, if you'd like to support Crystal Kyle and Friends, links in the video description box below. You can support on Substack. You could sign up for free to get the audio version of the podcast on Saturdays, or you could pay $5 a month to get it on Friday and get the video of it. And of course, you can support the show on Patreon if you're so inclined. Love all you guys to death. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.